Welcome to Rogue Reviews. My name's Evan.
I'm Nolan.
And this week is Beauty and the Beast.
Yep.
We have our special guest, Mrs. Potts, here.
And Chip.
With a chip in him, obviously.
Yep.
Directed by Bill Condon. We obviously have Emma Watson as Belle, Dan Stevens as Beast, Luke Evans as Gaston, Josh Gad as LeFou, and plenty of others. We had a pretty big starred cast in this. We have Ewan McGregor
As Lumiere.
We have Ian McKellen
As Cogsworth.
and plenty of others, including Emma Thompson, Kevin Kline.
Stanley Tucci's in here. I didn't even see him in the movie.
Yeah, a lot of casts, a lot of big stars in this movie. I mean, obviously it's Disney, so expect nothing but the best. I'll let you start.
Yeah, I think this is the first review where we have a little difference of opinion. I really enjoyed this movie. I think these Disney remakes are at their best when they stick close enough to the source material, unlike a film, say, like Maleficent, where I thought it strayed away too far from the lore that the animated one had established and they tried to make her a hero. I think this is more in line with their Cinderella remake, which I really enjoyed also, where they stuck close enough to the story, but I think they fleshed out characters that didn't get time to shine in the original, and that I really enjoyed in this film. Specifically, Kevin Kline as Maurice, as Belle's father. I think they did a nice job fleshing out his story more and bringing more depth to that character that was just kind of an afterthought in the original movie.
I agree. Maurice was good. I will say they did try and flesh out a lot more storyline with, a pretty, I mean, you look at it, it's pretty vague. I mean, it's straightforward. You have, your simple-minded town. You have Belle, doesn't fit in, meets the Beast, power of love and not looks, and yada yada. It's pretty, two-dimensional. So I could see that want or need to add more depth into the story. I'm all for that. I just think it completely fell flat. Emma Watson was just stoic to me. I don't know. She
wasn't for me.
Dude, she was like walking around like, this was as much emotion as she could have. Even while they're singing the opening bit, the opening like bonjour, 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 bonjour. Like she was just like, okay, I'm in this town. I'm really showing that I really hate it here. I mean, maybe that was what she was trying to convey, that she was bored or something like that. But then she's singing at the same time, and it was just really odd to me. It was really weird. The town, I mean, whatever, the town's the town. I mean, it's fine. They kind of added more of this, like, almost resentment towards Belle, whereas in the cartoon, it was more so, she's odd. She's different, whereas the town now, oh, yeah, let's bully Belle because she's different. Where the cartoon didn't have any of that, and I kind of liked that in the sense of, like, why do we have to go down that rabbit hole?
Yeah, they were a lot more mean-spirited.
Yeah, and it's like, did that really have to happen? Do we have to make this, like, almost all PC about it, where it's like, oh, she's different, let's bully her, and let's obviously make us the bad guys, where obviously they trash Beast's castle at the end, and it's like, okay, yeah, they're the bad people, but they were coaxed by the bad guy, which is Gaston. In the live action, they made it, very, they don't like Belle, so we should not like the town, which I thought was an added element that was kind of weird.
I think Luke Evans, though, killed it as Gaston. I think his portrayal of it definitely could show you why these people would follow him in the end. He's very convincing of that.
He was definitely animated, a little not believable in some scenes as like the stud of the town, you know what I mean? Like
I think they were going for a different interpretation of him. I think he wasn't like that.
Nerf herder.
That he was in the past. I think he was more. He had his like moments of that, but then he had his quieter moments where he kind of calmed down. I kind of like the backstory that he gave.
I think it was confusing because in the beginning he was like, I'm gonna marry that girl. Yeah, you're right. He came off like kind of like, different. You have a different, like, not so two-dimensional bad guy who's like, I want Belle, and that's that. He had that sense of like, oh well, I'm gonna win her heart. But then he would 180 to like, I'm gonna beat the crap out of her dad And then, I don't know. It's like all of a sudden he was like insanely evil, coming from a soft heart, and it's not like we see too much of a character change in the fact that Belle rejects him. It's like it was so like it did not flow. It did not flow whatsoever. Characters would 180 all of a sudden because they need to stick to this timeline that Beauty and the Beast already set in place in the 1990s movie that I hold dear to my heart because I'm a huge Disney fan, and it sucks because I know I should give it a little bit of sugar on top because of course it cannot top that movie, but still just the acting wasn't there. It wasn't there for me. Like it wasn't fluid. It wasn't. I don't know.
I don't think it was helped by the editing. I mean, you're fighting an uphill battle to begin with. The 1991 Beauty and the Beast, it was nominated for Best Picture, and that was in an era where it was only 5 films nominated for Best Picture. Now, after The Dark Knight came out and got snubbed, you can have up to 10 now. So it's even more of an accomplishment back then to get it. It was the first animated film to ever get nominated for Best Picture. So, I mean, you're definitely fighting an uphill battle trying to... And I don't think it tried to be as good as that. I think it knew what it wanted to be. It wanted to flesh out a little more of the side characters. I mean, you're talking about a runtime for the original of 1 hour and 24 minutes, where this was a little over 2 hours, I believe.
2 hours and 9 minutes, something like that.
Yeah. They added a little more. They added a couple more songs. Some worked, some didn't. I know we have differing opinions on like one of those songs.
Yeah.
I liked. I think. I think the characters they decided, in lieu of other characters that maybe got the spotlight a little more in the animated movie, mostly like the household servants like Lumiere and Cogsworth, I think they fleshed out. I liked how they fleshed out Gaston in that way that they kind of mentioned in the beginning he hasn't been the same since the war. Sometimes he goes on LeFou has to calm him down because he snaps. So that kind of worked for me when he in the end ultimately portrays Belle and her father. I liked how they fleshed out the Beast and gave him a little more to do. They kind of give you more backstory than you got in the original. You kind of find out why he's the way he is. And Maurice with the whole backstory involving Belle's mom that we never got in the original too, I thought was very well done and tastefully done.
The new story points were definitely good to have to fill in kind of the questions that we had. You could tell that fans made this movie. Yeah. Obviously, I mean, I don't know who's not a fan of the original Beauty and the Beast, but you could tell that they wanted to answer those questions that we've had, like more detail in the whole curse entirely, how certain things work. That's a great thing that they could have fleshed out more. The whole Gaston having post-traumatic stress. They touch on it once, and it was more of a joke than it was actually like building a story for me. So that could have been a big thing. Like that could have been a deep fleshed out thing for Gaston, but I don't know. And apparently LeFou was with him, right? During the war or
I think they said that, yeah.
Something like that. And that, I mean, they said it in the beginning and there it was.
I don't think, I mean, in a big ensemble cast like this, it's kind of like with Kong, you have to choose who gets the spotlight, and I think they chose the right characters to do that, unlike Kong where they tried to give everybody like their 2 cents. I think they chose who they wanted to highlight in this film, and Gaston had his moments, but I don't think he was one of those people that were like, all right, let's make this story, because it's it's about Belle and it's about the Beast.
See, that's the thing, because it's like, well, then how did the cartoon do it? How did the cartoon get away with like being as short as it was and making us so emotionally invested in these characters and feel like we know who they are?
I feel like the cartoon was a much tighter script. I mean, when you take things and expand it, sometimes things get lost in translation, and
that's a good way to put it. And I think that's what I was saying earlier was the cartoon just flowed. It flowed very well into each other. And
I think that's my one big complaint about this movie is the editing. Mm-hmm. I'll agree with you. At some points, it doesn't flow. A lot of times, it like fades to black, and I'm like, "Is that where the TV commercial is gonna go?" Like,
yeah, right.
I didn't like that editing choice, and it happened like 4 or 5 times, and I'm like, "Well, why don't we just flow into the next scene?" I felt like it stopped it when it was building momentum and it just stopped it to a halt. And I'm like, all right, and then we had to go through everything again, where I feel like if they had made some different editing choices, the movie would have flowed a lot better like the cartoon did.
Getting into post-production, this is Disney. I mean, this is Disney. They own the world. I mean, they own Marvel. It's like extremely extravagant things. Okay, now you have the cartoon, which obviously a cartoon is going to be. It's going to be so much easier to make everything extravagant and luscious and vibrant and all that.
They have an unlimited budget.
Right. And you think they would, considering this is Beauty and the Beast. I mean, this is one of their flagships. This is like the legendary from the golden years of the early 90s where I came from with The Little Mermaid and Aladdin and all that. Like, so you'd figure they put a little money into this, and I'm sure they did, but the effects to me, the characters were good. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. The sets were dark. They weren't.
I'll agree with you.
They weren't vibrant. They weren't when they needed to be. Like I understand that when the castle's in disarray, it needs to be dark, which it very well was. Yeah. I love how they added the collapsing of the rose mimicked by the collapsing of everything else around it. I thought that was really well done. I thought that was really cool. Almost making the castle a character in itself, along with the live action people, which the cartoon didn't really touch base on. Yeah. But like the dancing scene, the ballroom scene, the Be Our Guest scene, which is near and dear to my heart. That's like my favorite song, and it's so cool in the cartoon. I don't know. It was just weird. It was weird watching it. It wasn't extravagant. It wasn't like magical. I know there's more that they could do because I've seen it done. I've seen plenty of CGI movies that are just like mind-blowing how good they are.
I'll disagree with you on the dance scene. The Be Our Guest, I think it started out slow and I was like, all right, where's the color? And I think it built towards the end to be very satisfying at the end. I'll agree the characters look good. The CGI, when I saw that sneak peek at California Adventure, it didn't improve when I saw, it was 3D, so I'm like, maybe it was the 3D that kind of tore me off, but like the background shots and everything, they looked very, like you could tell the actors were in front of a green screen. And I mean, fair or not, Disney made The Jungle Book, which had the most mind-blowing CGI I have ever seen. Fair or not, I'm going to hold them to that standard from now on. This movie was not up to that standard with their CGI. Does it detract from the movie? Not really. I actually thought the Beast looked pretty good. That was one of the worries I had.
There were some parts where it was like,
there were some
his
parts.
Expressions were like,
but I thought the cool thing is you could clearly see Dan Stevens' face in the Beast, which was cool.
Which helped a lot after the transformation because that's still Beast, like that's still him. Whereas obviously the cartoon, it's like, okay, this is a completely different person. Like you don't see that. Like the eyes were there, the nose was similar. Yep. And I think the ending pulled it together. Yeah. I think that's where the most emotion was. And I feel like the ending was where all the characters felt at home. And that was obviously the danger of the end where they trash the castle. And the end when, it's funny. I felt like there was more emotion, even with lack thereof, when they were in character as their CGI people. Then when they went into real life characters, it was like the only person who stood out to me was Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor gives a great performance.
He killed it. He was great as Lumiere. I mean, he was Lumiere, and I have great respect for Ian McKellen, so I have to chop it up to just he wasn't given a great role in this. I mean, Cogsworth was huge in the cartoon, and I feel like he was very just like, we shouldn't be doing that, and that was it. Like, it wasn't, they didn't have as much banter between, it was almost like, I don't know, it just didn't fit. It didn't fit to me.
I think they let Lumiere steal the show in that way.
Yeah.
Emma Thompson is good. I feel like she was doing her best Angela Lansbury impression, though.
Right,
because like even when she was singing, I'm like, I've heard you sing in other movies. You don't sound like that. Like,
right.
I mean, she pulled it off good. She sang well. Ewan McGregor is the standout.
He pulled it off. But he's great. I mean, he is great. He's a great actor. Yeah. Him with Maurice, believe it or not, they were believable. They're embracing these characters and they're bringing something new to the table for me, and that was really good. everyone else just fell flat to me. Even the Beast. The Beast had moments where it's like, okay, this is a different side of him. This is a different Beast than the cartoon. The character arcs and the way it was just so stop and go and so like, oh, now we're this. Oh, now we're this. Oh, now we're this. And the whole falling in love thing, which the whole movie is even about, almost felt like a byproduct. Like it didn't flow like she felt. It was like it had to happen, so they made it happen.
I'll disagree on that point. I think they did. I think they did a pretty good job of that on my end, of showing that through like the library scene.
I mean, they do the panning shot of like the library, and she's like, "It's beautiful," and then the Beast is like, "Well, I guess it is," and which is fine. It's great, but like, I don't. It wasn't grand like the cartoon was. It wasn't like holy cow, this library is amazing.
Well, that goes back to the cartoon having an unlimited budget.
It's a cartoon.
Yeah, they can
draw whatever they want. They can make it a million, stories or whatever.
And I think they did a pretty good job. I think mostly in the castle they did practical sets here. Mm-hmm. I don't think there was a lot of CGI outside, like the outside landscapes, which was the part that didn't look good for me. So
it was pretty exaggerated.
Yeah, I think when they were in those sets, they looked good for what they were trying to convey. And that's another thing where like the grandness can sometimes get lost in translation with those animated movies, because they do have unlimited budgets. I mean, you can draw whatever you want,
Right.
So what would you rate this movie?
It was tough to sit through in the beginning. I'll say that. I don't know. It's just. It wasn't entertaining to me. It wasn't. It's almost like I had to sit through it to get to the juicy part, which is the ending, obviously. Mm-hmm. And once it hit the end, it was slightly more redeeming. It was a little more entertaining, and it resolved, and it was good. I don't know. It wasn't as entertaining to me as I would have hoped. So I'm gonna give it a not so bad, but not. So I'll give it a 6.8.
Okay. I think for me, this movie flowed a lot better for me than you. I liked where they took the story and where they chose to expand it. And I like some of the new songs they put in. It flowed for me. Like the editing and some of the CGI were a bit of a drawback. But overall, I don't think that detracted from my experience watching it at all. So I'll probably give it a solid 8 for me.
With some big contrasts there between the ratings.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
For sure. So, I mean, we know Disney is going to keep doing these live-action remakes because it's just, like, printing money for them. I mean, what one are you most excited about coming out of the gate? Because they just have a whole stable of these things that they're, like, throwing into production. Each day we hear about a new one that they're coming out with.
Do they need to be remade? Like, do they...
Well, they don't, but money. Money talks in this town,
And, like, new generation, I get it.
Yeah.
For me, just to be, I don't know. I have a feeling they will pull through with Lion King. I don't know why. It's from cartoon to CGI completely, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's no people in it. They might, if they use real animals, props to them if they can pull that off. But
I don't think they will.
I don't know. Like you said, Jungle Book was a home run with the CGI. So they can definitely pull it off. I think that'll be easier to do, and I think the heart of it, seeing what CGI is able to do now with actually showing, just adding character to these, animations.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be good. So
yeah,
I'll say Lion King is what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I have a lot of faith in Jon Favreau on that one. Crushed it with the Jungle Book, and they got James Earl Jones to come back as Mufasa, so that's exciting.
There we go.
I think the one I've heard about that intrigues me the most is their Winnie the Pooh one called Christopher Robin, which, reading the synopsis of it, it's basically Hook with Winnie the Pooh, which could be amazing.
All children of Disney stories become lawyers when they grow up.
Mark Forrester is directing this movie, who did Finding Neverland, which I thought was like Johnny Depp's like last great performance up until Black Mass.
I liked it. It was good.
So I think that one has the most intriguing synopsis where something happens in the 100-acre wood. Pooh has to go out and find an adult Christopher Robin. So I think that one has the most potential of all these ones announced, as well as Mulan. Mulan could be very epic in scope if they wanted to go that route with all the big battle scenes. We'll see how they work out. And if they don't, we always have the original. That's kind of my philosophy on remakes. If the remake sucks, who cares? I got the original. I can pop it in, you know?
There you go. All right. Well, I think that'll conclude this episode of Rogue Reviews. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Leave us a like if you like the video, or subscribe if you'd like to see more.
Yep.
And there will be more. All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you next time.